there can't be alcohol in the sauce.
Yeah, so we'll start.
Manish.
So I just want to introduce what we're going to learn tonight, because instead of doing a sikha on the weekly sidra, I got a message, a text message from somebody who listens to the shirim, and he said that he had listened or learned this mimer with somebody else, and he didn't understand it. And I thought if he didn't understand this man's exposition of it, there must be a lot of people that don't. And that is deeply tragic, because this is such a yesoidic, it's such a fundamental mimer, that I thought we'd learn it together. I can tell you I've personally learned it many times, and it does, every time I learn it, it gets more difficult. It's very short, and it was so that it's historically in context. The Rebbe had a heart attack in 1978, massive heart attack. The hospital came to him, and it was Erev Simchas Torah, and for the next period of time, the Rebbe gave sikhas and maimorim from his room. Obviously not on Yom Tov or Shabbos, but and they were recorded often by microphone. If it was Shabbos and Yom Tov, it was the guys, the Koizrim, who remembered them and wrote it down afterwards. And these maimorim were characteristically very short. And people make the mistake of thinking that if they learn something from the Rebbe that's short, it's going to be easier. The absolute opposite is true. The shorter maimorim are really hard and really difficult, because they require not only understanding but a change of perspective, and for them to have any value, there has to be a real avoider, there has to be real work done by the person doing it. So this is one of the many, many maimorim which start with the Divrei HaMaskal of Mayim Rabim, and they come from, I need to explain the source of these Mayim Rabim, maimorim. They come from the Alter Rebbe's Torah Oya, the Alter Rebbe's first Rebbe of Chabad, the author of the Tanya and the author of the Shulchan Aruch, and he has very deep Chassidus, which is the mothership of many, many maimorim of all the Rebbes since him, and he has two maimorim called Mayim Rabim. Mayim Rabim means turbulent waters. That's how it's usually translated. The first is Pashas Lech Lecha, where Mayim Rabim are described, as we'll see as we go along with the shir tonight, they're described as the turbulent waters of earning a living. The business of daily difficulty, making ends meet. The worries of putting food on the table, looking after your children, fixing their teeth, whatever it is, fixing the car, paying the registration, paying whatever it is. And that it comes from a quote. It comes from a quote from where it says that Mayim Rabim lo yoichel l'koveses ha'ahava, that the turbulent waters will never quench my love for you, for God. It comes from Shir HaShirim. So, and the about that and the tension of what we're going to be learning about, one level of Mayim Rabim, is that how do you function in terms of being bothered by Gashmias and still have achieve a worthwhile spiritual life, which for a Jew is the only way to live. How do you do it? I mean, if you're being battered all day by business and phone calls and complaints and all the things that we're all used to, where do you get the reserves and the resources to have a relationship with your God? That's the concept of Mayim Rabim in the first of these Maimarim called Lech Lecha. In the Seder of next week, there's a second Mayim Rabim in Parshas Talmud, where Mayim Rabim is translated again as turbulent waters, but not the waters of Parnasa which seem to be preventing you from realizing your potential spiritually, but on the contrary, those passionate, the level of passion that is available to one to connect with his God in a way of excitement and joy and love. So the Rebbe is going to explore those two tensions, and I'm going to walk you through that. But before I do, I just want to explain that he walks you through those tensions only as an introduction to the main point of the Maimah. And the Maimah has 6 oisias, 6 paragraphs, and it's only 1.5 paragraphs, probably 30 lines, 25 lines altogether, that really contain the absolute jackpot of what the Rebbe is talking about. And what the Rebbe is talking about, before we get to analyzing that jackpot, is he's talking about a spiritual energy. Now I talk about this often. There are certain spiritual energies that are not available for appreciation in Gashmias, in physicality. We have examples of that in physicality. One of the most common examples that is used when teaching this is gravity. Gravity is an obvious physical force. We all understand that it exists, and scientists will tell you that we know almost nothing about it. It's measurable to some extent, but it's a very big puzzle. Objects attract, bigger objects attract, but the density of the object is irrelevant in that. So you can have a huge object which is very the opposite of dense, whatever that is, and it does attract. And you can have a small ball bearing which is very, very dense and very heavy, and it doesn't attract to anything like that. So gravity is a puzzle, but it's Gashmias. So at least we can work with it, we understand it, we can observe it, we can see the effects of it. There are some spiritual currents, on the other hand, which are not measurable. In fact, if you want to choose to pretend that they don't exist, you can. Those people who are Bible critics or skeptics will laugh at when you begin to talk about these in the same way that they'll laugh about ghosts or something which is equally illusionary. But these are not illusionary, and they're real. And one of those koikas we've learned together, I did 5 shiurim on it, was betochen, was trust, and how trust is an energy which is self-fulfilling. And the more you trust, the better, the more certain is the outcome. And that's an energy. it's a spiritual energy. It's well known to Ballet Kabbalah. It's well known to people that's skilled in Hasidus. And I can only say to you, I think it was, I don't know whether it was here or to the girls that I was bringing with some guy. I don't know, maybe it was here, but I quoted a letter that Rabbi Leader showed me before davening one day last week. I don't know if it was here with it, about the shoichet. Anyway, I don't know. I'll repeat it very quickly. That the shoichet had two brothers, and his father died. He was in a place where there was no minyan, and he couldn't say Kaddish. So he wrote to the Rebbe and asked, what should he do? Should he leave his job there and go where he could say Kaddish, or should he stay where he was, continuing to earn his parnasa? And his two brothers were presently unemployed, and they wouldn't be able to pay for the funeral, but he would be able to if he stayed there and he was working there. What should he do? So the Rebbe answered him that parnasa is a bracha, and if he's earning a living there, he should stay there, and his brothers will say Kaddish instead of him. And if he wants to, he can always pay somebody to say Kaddish. It's not as good as doing it yourself, but bottom line is he should stay there. And then the Rebbe said, new paragraph, 3 lines at the bottom of it, and the Rebbe says, truthfully, I don't know where you're holding in Emunah, but if your Emunah is strong enough, now this doesn't mean that you can pretend, doesn't mean that you got to, but if your Emunah is strong enough, then you can leave and you can go you can leave and say Kaddish with the minyan, because your Emunah will bring you a parnasa there. And in other words, if Hashem can feed you, he can feed you anywhere, but there's a missing piece. The missing piece is you got to believe it enough. And the Rebbe said, I don't know you, so I don't know whether your Emunah is strong enough for that. So the Rebbe isn't criticizing him, the Rebbe isn't patting him on the back, the Rebbe is talking fact to him. He's saying to him, if your Emunah is strong enough, then you'll have that outcome anyway. Pretending, you won't have it. Now that energy is Emunah, and that's not what we're going to talk about tonight. The energy we're going to talk about tonight is tshuva. Tshuva means return. And there are 2 standard meanings in Torah learning to tshuva. One is you mess up, you're sorry, you want to fix it, you resolve never to do it again, and you never do it again. That's tshuva. That's tshuva when somebody goes wrong and does something wrong, recognizes it, resolves not to do it again, and doesn't. That's a complete tshuva. But there's a different level of tshuva, and that's the level of tshuva that where a person is not doing tshuva. Tshuva means return. He's not returning from a wrong position to a right position. He is just returning to a higher level of spiritual existence. And that's why everybody is required. Tshuva is a mitzvah for all Jews, not just people who don't do VAYEIRAs, not just for tzaddikim, not just for the concept of tshuva is an energy, like betochen is an energy. Tshuva is a creative energy of enormous power beyond any nuclear fission. It can reverse time. I haven't got time to go into those sides of it. I want to try and go through with you the dynamic of tshuva, and in this maamar, the Rebbe analyzes the mechanics of it, how it's enabled, and when a person does tshuva properly, there are certain things that flow from that tshuva. One is that he elevates everything he's in touch with, but more importantly, he elevates his neshama. And he elevates his neshama to an absolutely amazingly different height than it was before the tshuva. And we're going to see why? Because the energy of tshuva is just so powerful, as we're going to see. So that's what this Maimon is about. This Maimon, it's only 6 oases. It's about 3 pages long. Every word is a year's study, and it reads very easily. It's very deceptive because you read it. The Hebrew's easy. The concepts seem very straightforward. I'll walk you through it, but you should know that we're carrying an atomic weapon here. This is not just okay. So the Rebbe starts off with the concept of Mayim Rabim. That we're told that the Mayim Rabim won't quench the love that a Jew has for his God. And the Rebbe takes first of all the Alter Rebbe's version of what Mayim Rabim means as being Turidus HaParnasa. Turidus means troubles in earning a living, troubles in everyday material worries. Worries is the wrong word because you shouldn't worry, but material buffering, where we're buffeted from morning till night. Why shouldn't you worry, by the way? Because of the letter that I have on my desk that I've had for 50 years that somebody gave me. I've told the story a million times, but it's worth repeating, that I was at a Yake Color and I said something about worrying, and one of the guys there told me that he got a letter from the Rebbe and he stopped worrying. And I said, I've got to have that letter. And he said, I'm not giving you the letter. And I said, why not? And he said, because it's not something you buy or take. You've got to become the letter. So I didn't know what he was talking about, but he told me that he pasted the letter in the front of his siddur and he read it every day for 5 years, and then he stopped worrying. So he said, if you promise to do the same, I'll give you the letter. So I told him, I can't promise to do the same. I don't even know what a siddur is. What's a siddur? But what I'll do is I'll frame it and put it on my desk and I'll read it as often as I come into the office. So the guy said, that was a good deal, and he gave me the letter. And I have the letter on my desk today, and the letter says this, Yesoid, it's underlined twice. Yesoid means it's a foundation of Torah and mitzvahs, the union of Ashkoka Protis, Al Kol Echad Ve'echad Mamish, the concept of divine providence controlling every person absolutely, and Mamish is underlined twice. So Yesoid is underlined twice, and Mamish is underlined twice. The foundation of Torah and mitzvahs is the concept of Hashgacha Pratis on each and every person, absolutely. Then the next line says, Eiza Mokum Ledaigus. How can there be room for worry? If you believe that first line enough, how can there be room for worry? So that's another sheer and another perspective, but I was just trying to correct myself because I said material worries, and you can't have worries if you learn properly. But you can be buffeted by material things. At the end of this Maimah, you will see that the Turidus HaParnasa, the Mayim Rabim, can't give you worries. Okay, so that's ois number one. There are material buffering, but that buffering in material sense, if you are properly perspectived, if that's a word, then you will not only not be afflicted by the Mayim Rabim, but you'll be elevated by them. We're going to see what that means. So ois number 2 analyzes how you get your parnasa, how everybody is fed by Hashem. And the Rebbe goes through this whole explanation that he's done many, many times. You've seen it many times, heard it many times from me, that a man has to understand that there are 2 aspects to his parnasa. There is the physical work that he's got to put in, and there is the bracha that really delivers the parnasa. And that it's not the physical work, that you can work as much as you like and you'll not change one cent of what is decreed for you on Rosh Hashanah, and you can, but if you're lazy and you don't work, then you don't actualize the chance. But the parnasa comes down through Shem Elokim for the more advanced, but it comes from Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei, outside of nature. It's a bracha. It's a spiritual bracha, and it's accessed through physical work, but you're a fool if you think that your physical work is causing your parnasa to flower. It enables it, but it doesn't cause it. What causes it is the bracha that you get to do. What's your work there for? It's only a keli. It's only a vessel to house the blessing. And therefore, the Rebbe says in many places, when Adam Rishon is cursed after eating the Priyetz Hadas, the fruit of the tree of good and evil, Hashem says that you will work with the sweat of your brow and with your hands and the sweat of your brow. And the Rebbe explains that these are not poetic words. This is Torah. This is God's wisdom. So you have to understand the depth of this wisdom, that you work with your hands and you work with your sweat, but you don't work with your head and your heart. Your head and your heart have to be reserved for Torah and mitzvahs. In other words, there is developing in this ois a standard way of Jewish life, for a Jew's neshama to live, that there is his spiritual consciousness, and the fact that he has to work with Gashmias to elevate the Gashmias and to bring the spiritual consciousness into the Gashmias. And work is an absolutely terrific example of that dynamic, that the bracha doesn't come from the work. You work with your hands, but your head and your heart are reserved for your connection to your God. And the better the connection, the better will be your parnasa, the better will be the bracha. So that when a Jew needs an increase in Gashmias, he has to understand, and it's very difficult, you have to understand that the first thing you have to do is to change your spiritual position, not your physical position. That's not true of Gentiles, that's not true of animals, that's not true of trees. But for a Jew, it is fundamental. And sadly, if most Jews don't know this, so what do they think? They need more money, they have to work harder. You need more money, who says you have to work harder? Work is a levush, it's a garment. It's a garment for the bracha. You know, the Rebbe explains in this particular mimer that too many levushim can be a nuisance. Imagine that you want to wear a jumper. It's cold outside. So you decide you want to put on a jumper. 2 jumpers, 15 jumpers. Somebody standing there saying more. 32 jumpers, 50 jumpers. Will you be able to walk? Will you be able to move? So more levushim, more garments, can become a terrible nuisance. You can work more harder and harder and harder and go crazy. It's still not making any difference in your parnasa. Why aren't you making a difference in parnasa? Because you keep stealing. I'll give you an example. The guy keeps stealing. The more he steals, the less he earns. So he works harder. Does the work harder fix the problem? The problem comes from the stealing, not the work issue. So what do you keep your head and your heart for? For Torah, for learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. And obviously we have to work through nature, but not be fooled that the nature is the cause. It's not the cause, it's the vessel. It's the keli. That's ois number 2. Ois number 3, the Rebbe, this is a bit hard. In the devolution of the worlds, there are a series of worlds. So there is a world called Toyu. In the first section of Bereshis, it says that the world was Toyu v'voyu. Toyu means wildly without boundaries. And in the world of Toyu, it explains that there's a predominance of lights, Chesed, unbridled Chesed, unbridled Gevura, and they crash into each other. They're not limited by each other. It's a world of total turbulence and anarchy and wildigkeit, wildness. And then the next world down is called Tikkun. And in the world of Tikkun, the lights are controlled by vessels that house them and give them order. Now, we learn that we need to access something in Tikkun needs to access something in Toyu for it to develop. I'm resisting going there at the moment. Let me try and get back on to the specific ois. Okay, I'll try and explain it like this. The Mayim Rabim we learn in Chassidus is from Toyu. The wildigkeit, the wildness, the bothering you, the battering you, the interference with your peace of mind and serenity. That's Toyu. And the neshama, which has an entry into your guf, is tikkun. Now, I need to go back a step and explain this. That the yerida of the neshama into the guf, the descent of the body into the guf, has to be a problem for everybody. Anybody who's intelligent a bit, who thinks a bit, has to have asked himself sometime in his life, why did God create the world? What am I doing here? How come I'm alive? What's this about my soul?